So this week is all about the autonomic nervous system, which is a functional division of the nervous system that's going to rely on what you've learned already about neurotransmitters and receptors and the anatomy of the nervous system in a way that hopefully is interesting and useful. So I want you to start by actually making some sense of these systems yourself. Imagine you are lying in bed. You are almost asleep, really relaxed, and your roommate comes in and is like, wake up, get up. We've got an exam in 5 minutes. What responses happen in your body? What do you feel in your body that happens? Think about that. So you probably had an increase in heart rate. You might have maybe felt you were sweating. Those are probably the two most obvious ones. So a lot of the physiology of this division of the nervous system, you can feel, and that will help it make more sense. So let's go through this a little bit more in detail and talk about the two subdivisions of the autonomic nervous system, which are the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic is our rest and digest system. So this is going to be what's active when we're resting and digesting, is going to promote further digestion and processes that relate to that. The sympathetic nervous system, it's like sympathetic to a stress. It's like, I'm sorry you're being chased by a bear. I'm sympathetic to that. I'm going to help you with that. This is what's considered fight or flight. So it's going to trigger all the physiological responses that are needed to fight or flight. Increased heart rate, increased breathing, increased sweating, decreased digestion. We don't want to spend our time doing that. A few other things that are maybe a little bit less intuitive, but all kind of make some sense. Okay, so let's go through these. This shows the anatomy of the two divisions that we will go over next, but it's a way to look at what target organs there are, because that's how what these nervous systems are going to affect, right? So what are their targets? Most of them are the same targets are innervated by both of these divisions, but there are a few exceptions. So first, let's go through the things that are kind of directly related to fight or flight. So I'm going to kind of mark these with red, things that are related directly to being able to fight or flight. So dilating pupils might be a little bit less obvious, but you want to be able to let more light in. Maybe it's dark when you're chased by a bear. We want to be able to maximize how much light can get in so we can see better. So being able to see well is important. Then we've got increased heart rate, pretty obvious, right? Getting oxygen and glucose to all the cells of our body that are more active, need to be more active, especially skeletal muscle. Dilating airways, getting oxygen into the body, carbon dioxide out, related to that increase in metabolism and during fight or flight. And then stimulating glucose release from the liver. So we want to mobilize glucose in order to make ATP in all of our cells very quickly. So we have increased metabolic rate during fight or flight. We need more glucose. We're going to mobilize that. All of those things are opposite in direction when the parasympathetic nervous system is active. So it has the opposite effect. There is another thing that's not shown here that's only innervated by the sympathetic nervous system. It is sweat glands, so sweating. Sweating would increase when the sympathetic nervous system is activated. It doesn't decrease when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. Those sweat glands are only innervated by the sympathetic activation. It's just on and off versus like more on and less on, although it kind of is more or less on. Okay, then there are components that are more active when we're resting and digesting. So the parasympathetic nervous system is in charge of this. So this is things related to resting and digesting. Salivation is an important part of digestion, producing saliva so that we can start the digestive process. Stomach activity and intestine activity, right? And again, all of those, the sympathetic nervous system is going to inhibit those. One thing that's not shown on this diagram is blood flow. So blood flow would be also directed towards the organs that are most active. So this would be increased blood flow to the organs in red, right? And over here, we'd have increased blood flow to the organs marked in blue. So we have more oxygen and glucose going to those specific tissues. Okay, two more kind of maybe less intuitive things. One is the three organs shown down here. One is the bladder. When you are stressed out, you might pee yourself. The bladder relaxes. Down at the bottom, this is showing the genitals. And this is a cool example of a coordinated response from both systems. So for erection and ejaculation and similar responses in females, both divisions of the nervous system are involved in that. So opposed to most physiological responses that involve only one of the systems kind of overriding the other one, this is an example of relying on something that relies on both systems working together to complete that process. Okay, and then last one is the adrenal gland. So this is one that has different anatomy. The adrenal gland is going to release hormones as part of the fight or flight response. And these hormones are going to cause a more prolonged stress response. So very similar effects, basically, that we have here. They're going to target those organs, but not as quickly, right? So instead of being targeted by a neurotransmitter, like they are with this direct innervation, they are targeted by a hormone. And we'll look more at the detail of this anatomy, but it is important for making sure you really can get away from that bear. We have a quick response and it lasts long enough to get us away from the danger.